His home has been completely flooded from the hall to the kitchen and bathroom. Flood waters from last night's rain have soaked almost everything in Kwabena Dambon's home at Teshi in the Greater Accra region. Mr. Dambon tells Joseph Akable, aside not being able to salvage anything, he and his family have been left homeless. The situation is no different in other parts of the city. There is more in the following report.
My journey to observe the impact of Monday's rains had the Teshi estate as my first port of call. Here, the residents of Kwabena Kumbon is the most affected. The wall that separates his house from his neighbors had caved in, destroying the sliding windows, rendering the home flooded. All parts of the house was greatly affected, and as at 9 a.m., he was yet to start clearing up the place. His wife and children had been moved to a guest house to seek refuge.
Take us in. So we are still using the blocks, as you can see. It's simply tough to get access without relying on them. So we are just at the entrance. The shoes obviously have to go off. Same with the socks before we can get access. So that is this is supposed to be the access to the kitchen. Yeah. The access to the kitchen, but I mean, obviously, the water has taken over this portion. It's a bit cold in here. Yes, so.
We have 4, my wife, and we have 2 daughters.
So what's the plan? What?
I don't have a plan. It takes money to have a good plan. I don't know what I have to do. I don't know. Who do we appeal to? Is it not more? I have no idea. But the point is, we can't put up in a hotel for how long? Maybe a day or 2 or 3. Beyond that, what happens? This place is no more livable, at least for a very long time. So,
Earlier, you were explaining something about the construction that is ongoing. What exactly are they constructing?
It's an old bridge on the Sango that has been blown out. I think they want to reinforce and enlarging it. There's one, you saw it there, and then there's one, that's the A-Life junction, okay? And they only started barely a month ago. When they started, I was wondering, because we're just about to enter into the rainy season. How do you start such a major project around this time when we had the whole year to do it? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the road has been barricaded there. So when the water, like it rained yesterday, all the water had to force itself into this compound.
So ordinarily the water should have flown ahead.
That's what I said. It's a perennial issue, but it's never happened like this before. You see the little difference there. That's okay. We are cool. But yesterday was worse because the road has also been barricaded. And so all the water rushed into that compound, forced and broke the wall, smashed the glass into our hall, and rushed in. We've never had problem with water to this level before. These boxes have always been here, no problem. Okay, so now look at it there. Everything is gone. Everything is gone.
His neighbors whose wall caved in are simply devastated.
Yesterday, I think around 10 o'clock, it was drizzling when we went to sleep. And by 11 o'clock, and when I woke up, I just saw water in my room. Like, all my bed were wetted. It touched my room. It raised to a level of about 3 feet. And the whole house, everywhere is flooded. Yeah, that's what happened.
What do you think can be done about it?
What can be done about it? I learned it's the issue of gutter here. And they have started renovating, like rebuilding the gutters. And so I think what should be done is they should hurry up with the construction of the gutters, and we'll see what will happen next.
Kilometers away, the script remains the same with different actors, the Dowuners.
The story of Westland can be better understood if the narration begins from this level. It's simply a waterway where you expect large volumes of water coming from whichever part of this particular community to simply make way using this path. You won't believe it if I point out to you that on Monday evening, the water rose to its highest level, overflowed, and now moved into the houses that are close by. Now, the water came into the building. If you can see for the walls, this is the level at which the water got up into. So right from the waterway level, it came this high. The entire compound was filled. So you can see right from the security post, they are trying very hard. What is taking place this morning in simple terms is Operation Salvage What You Can. So they are pushing the water out, they are trying to pump the water out, and they are trying to get everything out. There are some vehicles that are here on the car park. Now what happened was that when the water came in, these vehicles ended up being filled by the water. So we'll be engaging the owner of this facility shortly, but I just want to show you one of the vehicles. This vehicle. Two other vehicles. So this vehicle also was also affected. I mean, you can look into it. Lots of dust in there because the water, once it was gushing onto the compound, whatever item it came its way, it came along with it. And it ended up with a lot of sand, which can be seen inside the vehicle.
We looked outside and we realized that the road was flooded, and we became alarmed. And we realized that the water had reached halfway up our car tires, and then we realized we were stuck, we were trapped, we couldn't go outside anymore.
The home of Mr. Kwao and his family is a better example of how strong water can be. In the main house, it's a cleaning day. All hands on deck to get water out of the building. How soon will the situation change? From house to house, the stories remain the same, as you may well be aware.
Of course, we have no place to go, so we will live here. But maybe we'll put in some measures that can help prevent the water from coming in. That's what we can do. But because we don't have no place aside this place, we have nowhere to go.
It is the season of rains. Joseph Akable, JoyNews.
My colleague Komla Adom joins me in the studio. He's been monitoring events from the Ashongman village since last night. Hello, Komla. It was terrible for you, I guess, having to stay all night to help rescue people. But was the situation different from all the other places we've reported on?
Well, Aisha, I have to say that it was a situation that many residents living around where I live say is unprecedented. So we've lived there for over 20 years, and there's not been any time that rains have come and we've seen this level of flooding where homes are submerged, vehicles are submerged, children are almost carried away by flood waters, and we spent the whole night rescuing some of these children under 8 years, under 5 years, because we were told by some of the residents that a bridge that was being constructed at the other end of the water canal was too small to accommodate the high currents of the flood waters, and so the water goes and then bounces off the culverts and then flooded the homes of those who live just close by. And I can tell you that the waters reached somewhere the knee level or even the waist level of many of the residents, and so the children were left homeless. We have to at some point volunteer our home as a place of shelter for some of the people who were displaced by the flood. So actually it was a very terrible night for many of the residents living around Ashongman village. About 25 homes were affected by this flood, Aisha.
Well, that's very pathetic. Let me have you hold and speak with Reverend Nyakote Kwao, who is Aviation Meteorology Inspector for Ghana. Good afternoon to you. Many thanks for your time on the pulse.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon.
It looks like last night's downpour took all of us by surprise. Did your outfit foresee this? Hello, Reverend.
Hello.
I'm saying that we were all surprised with the downpour last night because there were no indications of such rain coming. But did you foresee anything like that? Did you see it coming?
Yes, I think the Meteorological Services Agency had actually warned the general public about the rainstorm which affected the southern parts of the country yesterday. I think it was disseminated to all the radio stations and the TV stations.
Okay, but
Yeah.
was the alert, were people warned about the severity of the rain, or it was just a normal, warning from the meteo department?
Yeah, it was the normal warning. It comes in the same text, within the same context, as it's been all along. Anytime a rainstorm has been observed, the bulletin is produced and then it's disseminated to the media houses for an announcement to the effect. So it's been done.
What should we expect in the coming days, and which areas should be put on alert during these times?
Well, to the question, I will divide the country into three parts. That's the coastal areas, the mid portion of the country, and then the northern sector. That what we are experiencing in the coastal areas at the moment is the monsoonal tide. That is the sea to land effect, where the land is warmer than the sea. It drives a lot of winds, which pushes a lot of moisture inland for cloud formation and precipitation. So between now and the second week in July, we're going to experience this form of rainfall. It will be frequent or occasional in the coastal area. You don't need the clouds to develop very high as it used to be during the major rainy season, the boundary period. Now it's just the accumulation of the moisture over the land, and that's to produce the type of rainfall we have. Looking at the source region for most of these storms, that is Ethiopia, Congo, Cameroon, Nigeria, Benin, and Togo, it's still very active, and we're having a lot of these storms forming and moving towards the west coast, that is Ghana. So we're expecting that between now and the time I stated earlier, we'll be experiencing this type of rain. With the mid portions and the northern sector, in fact, actually entering into the thundery period, where the rainfall is normally associated by lightning and thundery, rumbling. So May, June, July, August, mid portions and the northern sector to September, October. But for the coastal areas, at least for the rest of this month and the first and second week in July.
All right, many thanks to Reverend Nyakote Kwao, is aviation meteorology inspector, and he's been updating us on which areas we should expect more of the rain coming, and also what his department will be doing to deal with the rains that are coming. He says we should expect more of that. Come now, back to you. How are these victims, or the people who had their fair share of this flooding, how are they putting their pieces together?
Well, Aisha, I have to say that it's been a very tough period for them. This morning, I visited about 5 areas which were affected by the floods overnight, and I saw residents, of course, trying to salvage what is left. Some people had their refrigerators washed away, their vehicle parts washed away, for example. There was this particular man who mentioned that his vehicle even caught fire amidst the rain, and then he had to get some neighbors to help him quench the fire. Otherwise, we would have witnessed a flood and fire incident in his home. And so these people, because they do not have any hope of getting help from anywhere, they are just trying to put their life back together. They say that once they have life, there's hope for...
In all of these, what is NADMO saying? Any relief for the victims?
Well, we tried the whole of last night to reach NADMO officials. I personally tried the emergency lines. I was unable to reach them. I had contacts from my colleagues in the office to call some other individuals who work at NADMO. When I called them, they told me that they were overwhelmed by phone calls, but they were dispatching teams to these catchment areas, Hacho, Agbugba, Adenta, and those environments. And if we are lucky, we may be able to have the team visit our area. But for the entire period we were in the rescue mission, we did not see NADMO officials come by. So the people are just trying to put their lives back together on their own.
And have we been able to speak with the mayor of Accra? Any plans, any measures?
Well, the mayor of Accra has been telling us that, in fact, they've been sending a caution to people who live in flood-prone areas. They say once you signal or you get the alerts that there's rain coming, you should move away from your low-lying area to areas which are higher lying than where you are, so that if there's even flood, your lives will be protected, so that if the properties are taken away, I mean, those are always recoverable. But the caution is that we should, move to higher lying areas once we sense that heavy rains are approaching. That's the caution.
But no specific concrete plans to deal with the floods in Accra?
Not that we know of as at now.
Not that we know of as at now. Komla Adom is my colleague, and he's been monitoring the Ashongman village. In fact, he's been trying to rescue some people who were victims of the floods last night. Now, some minority MPs say the flooding in parts of the city is because of the NPP government's failure to implement the Conti project aimed at constructing drains in Accra. They are asking the Minister for Works and Housing to provide a fresh blueprint to deal with Accra's floods if it has decided to stall works on the Conti project. Let me speak with my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our man in Parliament. Good afternoon to you, Joseph. On what basis are the members of Parliament blaming the NPP for last night's flood?
Well, they are not directly accusing them of being the ones responsible. The point they make is under the NDC administration, what is described as the Conti
project,
which was supposed to see the construction of a number of drains in Accra to help avoid the perennial flooding, and that this was an elaborate project. It was estimated to cost about $600 million US. The NDC administration couldn't find money to do that, and that we were expecting that when the NPP took over, they would have continued with the project and looked around for money to help complete the Conti project, which they've not done. And the point that Roads and Transport ranking member on that particular committee, Kwame Agboja, makes is that if the NPP administration had continued this project by the NDC administration today, the floods wouldn't have ended up getting into homes of people and flooding a number of areas. And so they're asking government that if they are abandoning the Conti project, then they should put out a blueprint on how they intend dealing with the Accra flood, the fall, and also they're asking that more money is invested at the level of the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing, because the minister there, Samuel Pasian, was in Parliament about 3 months ago to respond to a question about how prepared Accra is for the.
Hello, Joseph, you're still on the pulse. All right, so we're missing Joseph Opoku-Gakpo there. We'll try and get him back on the line to speak on what members of Parliament are saying on last night's flood. And they are saying that they want the Minister for Housing to come with a plan if the NPP government has decided to abandon the Conti project that was started by the NDC. Then they should provide Parliament with a clear plan of how Accra's flood will be dealt with. And he says that the MPs are very passionate about this call. Let's go back to Opoku-Gakpo. He's back on the line. Hello, Opoku-Gakpo. We missed you the first time.
Yes, and so I said the minority is asking that government invest a lot more money in the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. Kwame Agboja says there are about 50 million cedis that was given them in the budget for a flood initiative to avoid the flood wasn't enough, and that it's about time that more money is invested.
And we're also hearing about some supposed resignation in Parliament. Can you tell us more about that? All right, we missed Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. They will try and bring him back because there's a lot more beyond members calling for the Housing Minister to submit plans to deal with Accra's flood in Parliament, and he'll be giving us details of all of that. We'll take a break on the pulse. Still to come in this bulletin, we'll tell you about people living with sickle cell and how we can all prevent this from happening. We'll be back shortly.